Namaste everyone, I am your co-host Shravani ma'am. Welcome to your favorite learning channel. The topic for today's video is complex permanent tissue xylem. So in our previous video we had learned about complex permanent tissues where we had discussed a general overview of these tissues. So by that we now know that the tissue that consists of several kinds of cells but all of them function together as a single unit is called complex permanent tissue. Okay, so we know that these complex permanent tissues are of two types, that is, one is xylem and the other is phloem. Today we will be discussing about xylem tissues in detail. Okay, so this xylem tissue is a conducting tissue or conductive tissue, we call it a vascular or conductive tissue. So let's begin with the nature of the xylem tissue, and we will be discussing about the phloem tissue in our next video. So let's see what is the nature of xylem. So to begin with, so the xylem is derived from a Greek word, and this Greek word, that is xylos. This is the Greek word, and this Greek word means wood. Okay, so xylos is the Greek word which means wood, and from this Greek word the term xylem is derived. Okay, so xylem is vascular or conductive tissue. Xylem is what? It is a conductive or a vascular tissue, we can call it. Okay, so now the xylem is composed of four types of cell. Xylem is composed of how many types of cells? It is composed of four types of cells. And what are these four types of cells? One is the tracheids, then there is xylem vessel, the next is xylem parenchyma, and the fourth one is xylem fibers. Okay, so these are four types of cells that compose this xylem tissue. So first let's begin with tracheids. Okay, so let's see what are these cells and what are their functions. So these tracheids are elongated. They are elongated cells with blunt ends. Okay, so they are elongated with blunt ends, and the lumen of tracheids is broader with secondary wall lignified. Okay, so its lumen, the lumen is broader. It is broader with secondary wall that is lignified. Okay, then these tracheids, they possess pits which may be simple or bordered. So they have pits, and these pits could be either simple or they can be bordered pits. So the cell wall of tracheids is thickened due to the deposition of secondary wall substances. The cell wall is thickened, and why is it thickened? It is thickened due to deposition of the secondary wall substances. Alright, so then the tracheids are imperforated cells with bordered pits on their end walls. So they are imperforated cells. Okay, so they are imperforated cells with bordered pits. With bordered pits on their end walls. And they are arranged one above the other. These cells are arranged one above the other. Okay. Now let's discuss about their functions. Okay, so functions of tracheids. So the main functions of tracheids, we would be listing them one by one. So the tracheids are the chief water conducting elements. They are the chief water conducting elements in gymnosperms and in pteridophytes. Okay. Then the conduction of water and mineral salts takes place through the bordered pits. So conduction of what? Of water and mineral salts. How does it take place? It takes place through the bordered pits. Okay, so the bordered pits help in the conduction of water and the mineral salts. Then they also offer mechanical support to the plants. They offer mechanical support to the plants. Okay, so these are some of the main functions performed by the tracheids. Okay, then moving on, let's discuss about the vessels. Okay, so let's see what are these vessels. So vessels are also called as tracheae. Okay, they are also called tracheae, and they are tubular structures perforated at the end walls. Okay, then the lumen of the vessels is wider than that of tracheids. Okay, so here the lumen is wider than that of the tracheid cells. Okay, so the lumen are wider, and the perforated plates at the end wall separate the vessels. So these perforated plates that are present at the end walls, they tend to separate the vessels. Alright, then the vessels occur parallel to the long axis of the plant body. These vessels occur parallel. They occur parallel to the plant body. Okay, and due to dissolution of entire end wall, there occurs pores at the perforation plate. Okay, so the perforation plates, the perforation plates, they have pores. And why do they have pores? Because of the dissolution of the entire end wall. Okay, the pores appear or the pores occur at the perforation plates. Now let's talk about their functions. Okay, so these vessels are chief water conducting elements. They are the chief water conducting elements present in angiosperms. Okay, so they are the chief water conducting elements in angiosperms, and they are absent in pteridophytes, and they are also absent in gymnosperms. Okay, then the next major function is that the main function of vessel is conduction of. What is the main function of vessels? The main function of vessels is conduction. And conduction of what? Conduction of water and minerals. Okay, then it also offers mechanical strength to the plant. It also offers mechanical strength to the plants. Okay, so these are some of the important functions performed by the vessels. Now moving on, let's talk about the xylem parenchyma. Xylem parenchyma. So the parenchyma cells associated with xylem are known as xylem parenchyma. So these cells are associated with parenchyma cells, and hence they are known as xylem. They are associated with the xylem, okay, not with parenchyma cells. These are actually the parenchyma cells, and these parenchyma cells are associated with the xylem, and as these parenchyma cells are associated with xylem, these are known as xylem parenchyma cells. So xylem parenchyma is the only living tissue. It is the only living tissue amongst the constituents of the xylem. So among all other constituents of xylem, this xylem parenchyma is the only living tissue. And the cell wall is thin. Here the cell wall is thin, and is made of, it is made up of cellulose. Okay, so the xylem parenchyma cells, what do? They store food. Okay, they store food in the form of starch and fat. Okay, so they act as reserve for storage of food. So now let's see what are the functions performed by xylem parenchyma cells. So the main functions are that the xylem parenchyma, main function if we talk about, then the main function is that these cells store food. Then it also helps in the conduction of water. Okay, so these are the main functions performed by xylem parenchyma. So next, let's talk about the xylem fibers. Okay, the xylem fibers. So the fibers of sclerenchyma associated with xylem are known as xylem fibers. So these are the fibers of sclerenchyma that are associated with xylem. So these fibers of sclerenchyma associated with xylem are called the xylem fibers. So xylem fibers are dead cells. They are dead cells. Okay. So these are dead cells and have lignified walls, and they have lignified walls with a narrow lumen. Okay, then the xylem fibers are also called, they are also called or also known as what? They are known as libriform fibers. Libriform fibers. So the libriform fibers or the xylem fibers are one and the same. Now let's talk about the functions of xylem fibers. Okay, what are the functions performed by these xylem fibers? So the xylem fibers are supportive in function. They are supportive in function. Okay, so they are supportive in function, that is, they provide additional mechanical support. They provide the additional mechanical support to the plants. Okay, this is the main function of xylem fibers. Now let's quickly revise everything that we have studied today. Okay, today we discussed in detail about the xylem tissue, which is a type of complex permanent tissue. So in our previous video we had discussed about the complex permanent tissues in detail, and we know that complex permanent tissue is a tissue that consists of several kinds of cells, but all of them function together as a single unit. Okay, and there are two types of complex permanent tissue, that is, one is xylem and the other is phloem. Today here we have covered about xylem in detail. In our next video, we will be talking about phloem. Okay, so we had started with the nature of xylem. So the term xylem is derived from a Greek word xylos, and this word xylos means wood. So we already know that xylem is a conductive or vascular tissue. Now this xylem is composed of 4 different types of cells. They are tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. So first we discussed about tracheids. So these tracheids, they are elongated cells having blunt ends, and the lumen is broader, that is, it is bordered with secondary wall lignified, and these tracheid cells, they have pits, and these pits may be either simple or bordered. The cell wall of tracheids is thickened due to the deposition of secondary wall materials or secondary wall substances. Okay, then tracheids are imperforated cells having bordered pits on their end walls, right, and they are arranged one above the other. Some of the main functions performed by tracheids are that they are chief water conducting elements present in gymnosperms and pteridophytes. So the conduction of water and mineral salts takes place through the bordered pits of tracheids, and these cells, they offer mechanical support to the plants. Then we discussed about the vessels. So these vessels are also known as tracheae. So these vessels are tubular structures having perforations at the end walls. The lumen in vessels is wider than that present in tracheids, and what happens is the perforated plates at the end wall, they separate the vessels. So the vessels actually occur parallel along the parallel axis of the plant body, and the perforation plates, they have the pores. Okay, so what happens is, due to dissolution of the entire end wall, the pores occur at the perforation plates. Then we discussed about the functions of vessels. So vessels are the chief water conducting elements present in angiosperms, and they are absent in pteridophytes and gymnosperms, and their main function is to conduct water and minerals, and they also offer mechanical strength to the plants. Then we discussed about xylem parenchyma. So what are these xylem parenchyma? They are parenchyma cells that are associated with xylem. So this xylem parenchyma is the only living tissue amongst all other constituents of xylem tissue. So they have a thin cell wall that is made of cellulose, and they store food in the form of starch and fat, and the main function is to store food, and it also helps in the conduction of water. Then we talked about xylem fibers. So these are the fibers of sclerenchyma tissue that are associated with xylem. So they are dead cells and have lignified walls and narrow lumen. And these xylem fibers are also known as libriform fibers, and their main function is that they are supportive in function, and hence they provide the additional mechanical support that is required by the plants. So this additional mechanical support is provided by xylem fibers. I hope you all would have got some great insights by watching today's video. Please do not forget to like and share the video. Till then, thank you for watching.